Thanks for joining us at this late date in the afternoon. My name is Mark King. I'm the Organics Management Specialist for the Division of Materials Management. I run the Organics program and also manage the Waste Diversion Grants program. I have three other folks that work with me, Megan Mansfield Pryor, Jim Guerra, and Mike Parker was a member of the group, but he's recently taken another job. So what I want to talk to you today about is the waste diversion grant, the process, some of the ways to apply, and more specifically, hopefully answer some of the questions that may be lurking in your minds through this presentation, and then allow you an opportunity to then ask more questions as you wish. Because once I release the RFP, there's a very narrow window of 2 weeks where you have to submit questions in writing, and those are the only questions that you can ask. And I then submit the answers before the end of the period, 7 days prior to proposals due, and that's how you get the information. So this is a very rare chance to ask as many questions as you'd like. So to getting through the program, the Maine Solid Waste Diversion Grant Program is definitely a statutory program, Section 220.01B. It was established to help increase the diversion of solid waste from disposal in the state. And what's very important is awards must be aligned with two hierarchies, the solid waste management hierarchy and the food recovery hierarchy, which was recently adopted in 2016. The awards are prioritized based on the maximum benefit for the amount of money you're requesting in terms of increasing diversion of solid waste from disposal options. And our grant webpage is also available. And when this uh, meeting has been recorded and transcribed, you'll be able to have those as live links as well. Okay. So these are the two hierarchies we're talking about. Reduce, reuse, recycle. We're all familiar with that. That's been the mantra for many years. Compost. We also have anaerobic digestion as well as another possibility. And then we get down to the disposal side where you have waste to energy, where the material is still disposed, but energy is generated from the process. So it does have a higher value than landfilling. And what we're looking for these solid waste diversion grant proposals is that you're trying to push waste up the hierarchy towards higher and better end uses. That's something that we find extremely important to us. So some of the notable things, as I said, once the RFP is issued, the only person that you can contact is myself, and it's only if there is a problem with your proposal, and that's usually I'll contact you. In other cases, though, you just have that 2 week window to submit written questions, and then we can't have any interaction. And that includes calling me or sending me emails, which has been a problem in the past. You definitely must follow all of the instructions in the application package, the RFP, and failure to do so could get your proposal disqualified. But most important, please read the entire thing because there's lots of nuances in there that if you don't read them, you don't pick them up, and that can be a problem. And then another one that's been a big thing for us, if you are going in jointly with another entity, let's say that you're a community and you want to have somebody collect your food and do the work, come in as co-applicants, and then we'll figure out who gets the money, who signs the contract. It's really important that you don't come in as the person and then expect the other entity to actually sign the contract. So come in jointly, and then we'll figure out if you win an award, who gets the contract and who the money goes to. So that's really super important. Who's eligible to apply? This is another thing that kind of has been a very important thing for us, and that is that only Maine-based entities can apply for this waste diversion grant. And they can be Maine-based entities with partners that aren't Maine-based, but the entity applying for the grant has to be Maine-based. You must be able to demonstrate that your program, project, or anything that you're trying to do is going to increase the diversion of solid waste from disposal within a sector of the state of Maine. And that can be organics, it can be recycling, it can be reuse and repair of old equipment to make it new again. All those things are eligible. So that would be a solid waste facility, a private business, nonprofit, schools. We've even actually had individuals that are associated with some project in their community. So all of those things are eligible for funding. Some of the things that are important as well, though, is that if you are a facility that wants to do a compost project and you're required to have a license in order to do it, you can't apply for the waste diversion grant funds until you actually have that license. We've had situations where we have granted money and the entity hadn't gotten their permit yet, and it became very problematic because we can't give you money until the project is solvent and we know it's going forward. So we've now requiring that you must have your state or local licensure. If you hold a department license and you're applying for waste diversion grant, you must be current with all your annual reporting and all of your annual reporting fees as well. So you must be in total compliance with the regulations from the department in order to be considered. And then that also includes any state and local laws, ordinances, and things like that in your community as well. So the idea is that we just want a legitimate proposal from a group that is going to move forward with a good project. Some of the eligible activities we have, and we've had some really awesome ones. One of my favorites actually is the reuse and repair clinics, where they take old broken equipment and they turn it into new again. I think that's really cool. We had another one where we had a lending library where they took in electronic devices like weed whackers and lawnmowers, and people could actually sign them out and try them before they bought them. That was another cool project. But of course, the near and dear to my heart are the organics recovery projects, and we've had quite a few of those. But the idea is that any program or business that can collect, transport, process, or move organics and other recyclable materials towards higher and better uses, all of those are eligible. Another one that's really eligible that we like a lot is education and outreach. We love educating folks. We love students working on educational programs. So any opportunity we have to see good organics and good recycling education spread through communities and through the state, that's a really great project and something that we like. So we want to prioritize applications. This was originally when it first started was part of the state planning office, and they were 100% municipal grants. We now offer any sector of the state can apply, but we do give a lot of priority to municipal and regional associations, a lot of like AvCog and some of the other groups that work to help other communities because we're looking for the greatest expansion of energy, the greatest expansion of education, and the greatest diversion of waste through communities. So these groups tend to do that. Other places that we look at, and there are noted areas in the state of Maine, are those that are underserved. Washington County, for example, Bristol County to a certain extent as well, and some of the other communities in Maine that may not have a high tax base but still have an immediate need. So we definitely are looking for those. And any waste prevention, food donation, gleaning, reuse, repair, all of those are really great priorities. Education and outreach. And then if there's a statewide need and you're looking to address that statewide need, that's very important as well. And then of course, reducing the greenhouse gases. We actually just got off a meeting with the climate group talking about food scraps and things. And so any chances to reduce emissions is another good one. And then expanding, if you find a new sector, glass is one that comes to mind where we're getting more and more interest in recovering that and reusing it. So that's another place that can be prioritized. So things that aren't eligible, any proposal that requires legislation to pass in order to be implemented is definitely not anything that you can apply for. The legislation has to have already been passed for that to occur. Any projects or programs that have already been undertaken, let's say that you bought a compactor and you're now hoping to kind of pay it off with, wait, that's not going to happen. We're specifically looking at, say you got a compactor, now you want to expand the way that it's used, then that is eligible. So previous purchases can't be applied for, but any new purchases to augment an existing system are definitely eligible. We also don't want to and can't pay for any administrative, indirect costs, fringe, things like that. And we specifically have stopped paying salaries of faculty and other full-time staff. We still will entertain students and interns. If you have a project where you're going to employ a student to help get it started, maybe help do education, those costs are still eligible, but we can't cover any fringe or any benefits, just the salary of that person. And any disposal costs associated with what you're trying to do, if let's say that you're going to have somebody come collect your food scraps, we can't pay for the food scrap collection service, but any of those costs that I mentioned that aren't eligible can all be applied as your match. And we require a 25% match in order to 25% of the total project cost. So you can use all those defrayed costs, the fringe and all of that, and offer that as match to help cover your piece of the grant. So can I ask questions on the RFP? That's the one that I put in here on purpose. And the answer is you can ask questions in writing during the first 2 weeks of the application RFP release process. At that point, it ends. I come up with answers and I post those answers at least 7 days prior to the closing of the RFP period. And that'll be put on the purchases website where you can actually look up and see the answers to all those submitted questions. So you use Appendix E, and there's very specific directions in the RFP on how to do that. But the whole goal is that everybody has a chance to see the same question. Just like today, everybody has a chance to see the same questions asked. And I will put a link to this video in the RFP so that anybody that hasn't seen it can pop on and take a look at it. And plus, Jessica's also going to transcribe it as well. So that way, there's a written record of any questions that were asked and all that we discussed. So this is a really cool one. This is one that Megan put in, and I like it. It's how do you make it pop out? What's some cool stuff? And the first is to think beyond your organization or your immediate community. If you want to do a compost operation at your transfer station, think about all the communities around me. Are they doing anything? Maybe I can work together with them synergistically, and now I've expanded what I'm doing over many communities. So just take a look outside your little project that you're proposing and find ways to make it bigger. And then, so that's the second one, of course. And then, is the target area underserved? Will your project make a real substantial difference? If you're an underserved area and you say, I'm going to do this and this is going to benefit my people because I have the most food insecure place in the state of Maine, and we're going to find a way to conserve this food and get it to a higher and better use, that's awesome. That's the stuff that we want to see. Is your project unique? And if so, what about it is different? So really talk about your project, all the goodness of it. Is it likely to reduce greenhouse gas emissions? If it is, don't just say it is. Give us some way of being able to actually measure that. So when we compare these proposals, we're looking at the most competitive for the money that they're asking. So the more you put in, the better. And does the proposal push materials up the waste hierarchy? And as I said, food donation, feeding hungry people, gleaning, feeding hungry animals, reuse, repair, lending programs, and other sharing initiatives, all those move stuff up the hierarchy. And that's what we're trying to do is get stuff away from disposal. That's our biggest key. So how do you apply? Well, there's going to be an RFP release. If you send me an email and you're not currently receiving any of our information, I will put you on our listserv. We have a 168 member listserv. When the RFP is released, it's sent out in the local papers. It's also tweeted by David Medor, our deputy commissioner, but also that listserv, I blasted out on that as well. So we have multiple ways of getting you the press release with the RFP in it. And then from there, everything that you need to know is in that package. You must submit it exactly as described in the RFP. Purchases will receive them up until like 11:59, whatever deadline they give you, they automatically stop receipt 1 second over that timeline. So a lot of people wait till the last minute. I've had people the day before, I have two proposals, and then that next day I have 30. So it can happen. And just remember, they're very competitive, and we can only give 125,000. The minimum amount we've ever given is $347, and the highest amount we can give is 40,000. So if you think about that, three 40,000ers almost chops up all the money. So we're very careful to review these things and come up with the best possible results based on the quality of the proposals that we get. If we get three great proposals that are all super high quality and they all want 40,000, then those first three will get the 40,000. So our group is very, very good about consensus evaluation. And then the information in the application must be complete and accurate. I've had people submit applications and then after they submit it, say, I want to send some more stuff in. And the answer is no. If you do something like that, you've got to withdraw it and start over as long as you do it before the deadline. And then I have that question submission again. So common pitfalls. The biggest one is we had a year where three people were disqualified at the beginning because they didn't meet their 25% match. Really carefully look at that because if it's not 25% match, we automatically disqualify your application from further processing. Pay attention to deadlines for questions and completed application. And remember, you can't call me and ask questions. You can't send me an email. It can only be submitted on that written form and only within the first 2 weeks. And I actually have a deadline date that they have to be received by. Make sure you get all the documents the first time. Ask questions through the appropriate channel on time. So today is a good one. And follow all the instructions as best you can. So this is a big one. The final word on math, all proposals providing financial match. We actually had a problem this last round. And the bottom line is that if you're proposing money, it has to be money that's dedicated specifically towards being matched and not money you don't have yet, you're hoping to get down the road. So we're going to require that if you do a financial match, you have to show us a bank statement or a notice of intent to fund by a bank or other lending institution or any communication verifying the available funds are there and they have been set aside for the specific activity. And this is a big one. Under no circumstances can waste diversion funds be used as collateral to secure loans or leverage to secure other funding sources. That's a really big no-no, and that would get your proposal disqualified. And that is pretty much it. I'll open it up to questions.
All right, we just had a few new folks join. If you want to ask a question, just put a hand up. I'll make you a presenter, and then you'll have the availability to ask your question. I made Laura a presenter. You're welcome to ask your question.
No, she's muted.
Go. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Correct.
Oh, okay, thanks so much. So I'm calling you from Eastport. And I have a couple of questions based on looking at the previous cycle's applications. So I'm assuming that the application is going to be pretty much the same.
Real similar, just with more detail as I put in the presentation about eligibility and things like that.
Okay, so I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 questions.
Okay.
Okay, so the first one is we will probably have some in-kind as part of our match. I couldn't figure out from looking at the application form where we would put the in-kind value, how we would note that down.
In the cost proposal sheet, there is a grant side and there is a side that you put down what you're going to give. If you look at the, I think it's sheet number 4.
Okay. Okay, and so we, I'm sorry,
so,
go ahead.
Well, what you need to do is just like if, let's say you're going to put your salary or you're putting disposal costing, just get an exact dollar figure and put it in there. And the key is get at least 25% of the total. So let's say that the project's going to cost $45,000 and you'd like to get from us 20,000 and you say we're going to put in 25, that's more than 25% match. And that's all we're shooting for.
Okay, so if we had a company that said that it would be happy to donate us some materials, we would get the in-kind dollar amount value of those materials and just put that in, noting that it's in kind.
Absolutely. We're not trying to rob the bank here. We just want people to have skin in the game. And so
Sure.
that 25% match shows that you're not just asking us for money, you're committed to what you're doing.
Okay. And so also having to do with the match, our municipal budget has the Eastport Recycling Committee a line item budget match, but budget amount. Does that qualify for the financial match statement, or do we actually need to get the bank statement you just were referring to?
No, if you have match that's dedicated by a town process, that would be satisfactory for us. Would you agree
Okay.
with that, Megan? Yeah.
Okay, great.
Megan and I pretty much, there's one other person in the group, but we pretty much agree on almost everything. So
Okay, great.
It's a great group.
Okay. And also on the financial side, in the application, I saw that there was a statement requirement about the financial viability of the institution or municipality applying. So again, could the city of Eastport's fiscal year municipal budget qualify for that? Okay.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
see why not.
Okay. And then the last question, where you're asking for instance, if we were going to use a subcontractor to do some repair work that we would need to have done, well, our municipal bid process can't happen until the money actually was awarded to us. So we can get estimates, but we cannot do a subcontractor list. We can't commit to that until an award happens. So
Yeah, no, that's fine. Where we ran into trouble was that we had a community that applied. They sent in two forms. The first form, the contractor applied for the waste diversion grant. The second form, the contractor was listed as the person, but the town manager signed it. And in essence, the way that we do our grants is that the person that signed as the proposal is originator, they get the money. And so we had a conflict and we just couldn't do it. So you can put down contractor fees and you can estimate those, and those, if they're helping to construct something or that's okay. We would consider paying those fees. But you could also say that in lieu of that and got an estimate, we'll offer that as match. So you could do it either way. I mean, somebody's got some noise. Is that Laura? Does that make sense,
Okay.
Laura? We're losing you.
yes, it does. I will go on to mute now. That's the end of my question. Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And seriously, folks, don't be shy. This is your chance to ask us unabated, and you can ask anything.
So Emma is up.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much for your presentation, Mark. I was wondering if you could speak a little more to how the process works if you're planning to co-apply with another business or municipality. And do you separate out which funds will go to which business? How together is the application versus how separate are the two parts of each entity applying?
Okay, I'll give you one, and since it's public knowledge, I'll say the names. Garbage to Garden worked with the city of Sanford, and the city of Sanford was the one that signed everything, but they wanted the money to go to Garbage to Garden. So during the contract process, if you just apply as co-applicants, during the contract process, we identify who is actually going to get the funds, and they're the person that we write the contract with. So that would be how it worked. Now, if you want to have some money go to you and some money go to a contractor, I would suggest that if you're a municipality or another entity, you apply for the grant and then put in the cost proposal that these funds are going to go towards this piece. That would be the best way to do it. But if you want to apply as co-applicants, we can figure it out during contract writing.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Because I'm here representing Pleasant Mountain,
Yeah.
and we have one of our colleagues from Sugarloaf on as well. And technically we're separate businesses, but we do a lot together. So if we were considering applying together, I just wanted to kind of hash out how that would work.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the best way. And what do you think about this, Megan? I think I'd like both people to sign it as well, if they're co-applicants. Does that work for you, or does it really matter?
I think that's what we had before. I was trying to remember what Garbage
Yeah.
to Garden Sanford did, but I think they did both sign, and we had contacts at both entities just so we could reach out if questions came up. And I think you probably mentioned this, Mark, but just in case, people can look at the RFP page and pull up comments and review information from the previous rounds of grants, which might be helpful if you're thinking about applying, because you can go back and see how we scored
Yes.
things. And I think that's a good process to go through if you're thinking about applying.
Absolutely. And I would encourage you to go on the purchases page where the RFP is. And if you go down, scroll down to the bottom, you'll see at the very, very bottom is waste diversion grant. And you can see every single cycle that has happened since 2018 and all of the pre-selection package. It's like 140 to 160 pages long, but you can see every single bit that goes into it and get an idea of what you're up against. That's great. Great suggestion.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
So
It's like
there's-
Laura again.
I think her hand is just up from the first time.
Oh, okay,
still.
okay.
So, we're all caught up on the hands that went up
Okay.
in the first round.
Any other questions? I'm surprised there's not more. Usually, there's lots and lots of questions about subtle nuances. I can't believe I explained it that well.
Maybe it's because you've done a bunch of these presentations now. You've covered it all.
Well, I think that this is really important, and I think we're going to do these for every round from now on, because I hate having people send me emails or phone calls and I tell them that I can't talk to them until it's all done. I'm a people person and I want to be able to have discussions with people. So, Town of Solent.
Yeah. We made you a presenter.
Are they muted?
No. So we're not hearing you if you are speaking.
If your audio doesn't work, if you want to type a question in the chat, if anybody
It's
wants to
off.
type it. Oh,
You
the
want me to
chat
turn
is,
it? I can
yeah,
turn it on.
turn the chat on. Yeah.
Okay.
Because there are people that are shy that don't like to be on camera. Any
Okay.
questions you have, bump them into chat and we'll do it that way too. Do you want to talk a little bit, Megan, about some of the projects that we've done that you really like yourself? Because you're kind of the materials recycling person.
Yeah, well, sure. I think one of my favorite recent ones that comes to mind, because some of the ones that have been farther back are a little bit distant in my memory, but I really like the South Portland one. So the city of South Portland applied for a grant to do a lending program. So they're running it. It's like you would do a library, but they're doing it for electric tools so that people can, for one thing, not have to buy something new and just be able to, go out and get an electric tool to use when they need it. But it's also good because not everybody can afford to buy an electric tool. They tend to be more expensive than some of the gas powered stuff. So it's a great way to reduce waste because people are sharing something instead of going out and buying something that sits in their garage, 80% of the time. That's a program I really enjoyed. I think I love the swap shops, any kind of transfer station swap shop program. I just think those are fantastic.
And even though I'm the organics guy, I absolutely love the lending library, but I also love the repair clinics where you have retired members of the community that are mechanically inclined. And on a Saturday, they go to the transfer station, people bring in junk equipment and they teach them how to fix it and they turn it back into usable stuff and they leave with a working piece of equipment. That's really cool stuff. That's people working together and that's people reusing things before they throw them out. So awesome. Okay, so So is someone going to submit a question?
Yeah, they asked about getting a baler, and that is absolutely eligible.
Yep.
We funded a couple
Big time, big
projects for
time.
balers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as I said, another big one that's just come into view is glass crushers and creating like sand and things like that. And so there's all kinds of projects that are really out there. Uh, I can tell you that since the history of the Waste Diversion Grant Program, 80% of the applicants that have won awards have been organics, but that's not because there weren't great other ones. It's just that each cycle that tends to dominate. But we've also had some really incredible swap shops, some incredible repair clinics, and the lending libraries are awesome. Allagash Brewery did a really nice recycling proposal that was really cool, bringing community members in. So there's a
Yeah, they
lot of
formed a
awesome stuff
co-op.
out there. Yeah,
Yeah, the
awesome.
Allagash one is another really great one because they have a co-op and they have Fridays open so people from the community can bring stuff in, and they're also working with other breweries to recycle kind of like supply chain materials that wouldn't normally get recycled. Another project that was really great was the one at Nassau in Aroostook County. And they, because you mentioned glass, they got containers to store glass so they could actually start recycling the non-bottleable glass. And that was another really good project. I will say with the glass sand, just make sure you have a place to use the glass sand afterward, because you're going to be, if you end up making a ton of it, you just want to have uses for it, like through Public Works or something, because that is an issue that has cropped up with some of the glass crushing in the past, is that you might have too much of it on your hands. Laura had a comment.
Oh, yep. Should Baylor donated. And then, of course, we've funded many compost facility startups, and there is a provision in the rules, the solid waste management rules for composting, Chapter 410, that allows you to compost up to 5 cubic yards per month without a DEP permit. And another provision in the solid waste rules allows you to set up food collection areas, and all you have to do is just submit a registration form with no cost to let people know where they are, and they can then pick them up. So those are all really good things.
Hey, Mark, so Laura's question was, they have a baler, that baler that they were donated is in parts and hasn't been assembled. So she's wondering if assembling and testing the baler to determine if it actually functions would be eligible for the grant program.
Absolutely. And I would hope that as you apply for that, that you would also look at the bigger picture of what it will do once it's working, and make it all part of the application process. You know what I mean? It's like we've had people say, well, we want to set up a school compost operation. We actually, our lowest one we've ever paid, $345, was a community garden in South Paris that said they wanted to just set up some composting of the vegetative material that's generated after they weed out their gardens and things. And it's a garden that is seen by people from all over the world. And for $347, they wanted to buy like 3 or 4 compost units. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we as a group, we look at that proposal and we immediately like, how can you say no? I mean, of the impact for that little bit of money. So we are human and we do love a great story. And if we can see how your project is going to benefit many, food pantries, things like that, they haven't applied. Food pantries are super eligible. That's another one that's near and dear to my heart. So I think that you just need to think about a project that you'd like to do, think about the impact that it could have, and then ask about the nuts and bolts of it in your proposal. And
Right, refrigerated storage for food. I think that's been something that's been talked about as a need to
Yep,
rescue more food. That would definitely be a great thing that we'd love to see applications for more food
absolutely.
rescue.
So
I've also
really,
seen some community refrigerator projects, not in Maine, but I've seen presentations
yep.
about community refrigerator projects. It's another great option.
Well, one of the coolest things that I've seen in recent years is I went to the town of Cornville to one of their schools, and they actually had a refrigerator in the center where all the kids hang out. And if you were in the cafeteria and you had your meal and you didn't drink your milk or you didn't eat this or that, you can put it in that refrigerator, and it was a common share refrigerator that anybody could take stuff from at any time during the day, or if they were going home and they were food insecure. and they didn't want people to see them, they could wait till the end of school, fill up their backpack and go. And speaking of backpacks, the backpack program where kids that are food insecure, they're identified, but they're not labeled, they're not called out, and a backpack is ready for them full of food. That project is awesome. And getting that instituted throughout the state, absolutely cool. We want to give money away, and we want to make these projects really help the state of Maine. That's our two goals.
I made
Jessica,
Ellen
I
a
think-
presenter.
okay.
Yes. So Ellen, just unmute yourself and then we'll be able to hear you.
Ellen Pope from Southwest Harbor. I'm wondering if you have any wisdom for towns that are part of MRC and looking forward to the Hamden plant coming online with their diversion technologies. And as you know, we cannot divert organic waste. So it's kind of a large question, but there are 115 towns, as you know. So any thoughts that you could share would be helpful for us to craft our best proposal.
I can tell you that I actually have worked with the MRC in schools, doing school operations, school compost setups, where they're concerned without getting too far out on a limb, which I've been known to do. They're concerned with large scale amounts of organics, taking away from a guaranteed annual tonnage that they have promised to the facility. But I understand that that is also residential, municipal type material. So I do not know if that impacts commercial as well. So I'll just say that as a question mark. There's a guy in Hamden who's starting a compost called Earth First or First Earth, either it's one way or the other. And he's actually reaching out to businesses in the Hamden area. So I'm not trying to stir anything up. I can just tell you that they have given me permission over time to work with schools, and I actually did an MRC supported school compost operation. So
Thank you. I appreciate your thoughts.
absolutely, I can't go any further. How would we, if I wanted to just gauge this audience about how many would propose an organics program and how many would propose something else, how could we do that and see it on here? Do you know? Just have everybody put in the chat what they would do?
Yeah, you could go about it that way. Or if you can get a good read on reactions, you could just ask them to give you a thumbs up. But I think the chat would be the best way to get that.
Okay. I'm just always
information.
I'm always interested in what you folks are thinking. And so if you don't mind, just type in the chat organics, recycling, repair, reuse, whatever you think you might like to do, because that gives us an idea of kind of what the interest is out there. And Megan and I are always looking to see what that looks like. All right, cool.
And I would just suggest if you do organics, if you could specify if you want to do food rescue or if you want to do composting
Or both,
or
because
both.
there
Both
are
is
groups
better.
that have applied for the food collection and then to compost it at their transfer station, which is totally cool. So looks like recycling's winning, Megan.
Okay.
So far.
Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, Mark, did you see Laura's comment about
I-
limited
I-
space for composting?
Laura, let me tell you what, that is true, but it's not true. I've worked with the island of Vinyl Haven, and what we have done is we've taken used toters, the ones that they put the salmon in, the 1 cubic yard insulated toters, and we've actually put PVC piping in the bottom with holes drilled in it, and then we have the pipe come out of the back of that, and it attaches to a blower, and they've created aerated composting bins that they use on the island to compost their food scraps along with carbon from the storm debris that falls down. They have that ground up and it turns it into carbon. So being an island community means you do things a little differently, but you still have the same capabilities. There,
Laura asked if there was.
yeah, sorry. The answer is there is not. I believe that I actually have a PowerPoint slide I put together of the whole operation. So if you want to shoot me an email, I'll send you that PowerPoint slide. It's pretty cute. It's actually the lady whose husband designed it actually has 3 bins connected by one PVC pipe in the back, and there's little uh, twists on it that shut off each one to allow the most airflow to go through just one of them. And the blower is actually on a solar panel timer, and it's a really cool operation. And island communities, especially coastal island communities, have lots of these toters kicking around. Some are in bad shape that just need a little time to put back together. Spent oil from what's that question? Can you read that one, Jessica? The spent oil. Go ahead, Megan.
So they're wondering about collecting spent oil from the public and using it in a waste oil burner for their water treatment plant.
I think that's awesome. That's a and so the idea would be, are you looking to set up a collection system? Are you looking to purchase a waste oil burner? Where do you look? Because that's actually taking waste oil and using it in that manner is very much in tune with the waste diversion grant.
I think she's typing an answer.
Okay, cool.
They would be
Purchases.
looking to purchase a scrubber for the burner and a
Okay.
collection. They would be doing a collection system and purchasing a scrubber.
I think,
They
yeah.
already have the burner, yeah. So they'd just
I
be
mean,
mitigating emissions.
do you agree?
Yeah, I think that would be eligible.
Yep, absolutely. And just remember, I'm saying yes to a whole bunch of stuff, but as the applications come in, I have a team of 3 of us who all really love everything. And then when we get together, we may score some really high scores. And the problem is that we may score more than we have money. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes if we have more good projects than we have money available, I can go to management and try to get a little bit more money added to the till. So, and then otherwise, if something happens where we can't do that, then we have to make hard decisions. But in most times, we have not ever had a situation where we couldn't fund the ones that we had selected. I think the most we ever gave was 212,000 maybe in one round.
Sounds
Somewhere
about
that,
right. Something
yeah.
right, just over 200,000.
So any other thoughts? I had the Pleasant River person with Sugarloaf on, and I have been working with B from Sugarloaf on setting up a series of 30 cubic yard roll-off containers that can be used as compost bins, where you put horse manure and food scraps in, and then you generate compost from the product. The roll-off can be picked up with a truck and moved anywhere you want. And one of the neat things is this morning I had a phone call from the superintendent of the golf club up there asking me for any places where he could find compost locally, as the cation exchange capacity of his soil is at an all-time low and it's not able to hold on to nutrients to let the grass grow as pretty as it should. So I mentioned to him a whole bunch of places, And then I also talked about this waste diversion grant and some of the synergy that's happening on the mountain already. So it sounds like maybe the four of you ought to get together and come up with a project that might be possible for us to look at.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. B actually has transitioned in her role at Sugarloaf, and her replacement is on the call, Heidi.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I'll have to come up and visit you guys. To let you know, I was actually part of the original compost facility that was built by Kimberly Truskowski. She was one of the first students at my compost school when we had it at the Witter Farm up at Orono. So she was a graduate from the Maine Compost School, very first class.
So we have all the experts to tap into.
She's awesome. Is she still around?
I'm not sure. Oh, yes, from Heidi. There we go.
Awesome, because she got busted up in a mountain bike accident, and I was hoping that she was okay. All right, awesome. That's good to hear. I was there the other day. I took several people from the department that are new on a tour and just showed them some compost sites, and we checked out the earth tubs, and I could see that one is broken and one looks like it's not to be added to, but the other one was doing really well. So any other questions? I feel like I just had this meeting without Jessica a few minutes ago. So
I
how
think
many?
opening up the chat really helped to get some more dialogue in.
Well, good. Well, let's ask this: how many people on this call that are left are going to submit an application, or are seriously considering submitting an application? Okay, Esport, yes, cool.
Okay,
Oh, George Kemper just put his hand up, or Kerper, I'm sorry.
I'll go grab him.
Okay, all right, good. All right, awesome.
George, you can speak to us when you're ready.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're probably going to submit an application. Um, right now, the only thing we do is some composting with an outside agency, but we used to go in with Belfast and recycle a lot of cardboard and whatever, tin cans and stuff. But that's fallen through. So right now we're looking at getting another compactor, a second compactor for all recyclables, and then sending that down to Eco Maine and have them, go through the recycling on that. But it wouldn't cost, if we just put a bucket up there to receive the recyclables, it would cost us too much to actually send it down there. So that's why we're looking for a compactor uh, to do the work for us and compact it and then send it down to EcoMaine for recycling.
Okay. So this relationship with Belfast that went south, is there any chance that you could talk with them about some potential collaborative activities between your group that we could fund with the waste diversion grant?
Yeah, there's a chance we can talk with them. I doubt it'll raise anything. We had problems with Belfast and the schools. Once there was a school that took care of both Searsport and Stockton and Belfast, and that kind of fell through. Sometimes they just don't want to listen or talk to us, unfortunately.
Yeah, the whole consolidation of school districts definitely made some bad blood in a lot of ways. Um, well, if I can help with that relationship, especially if you're interested in any organics collection or composting, I wouldn't mind coming down and kind of talking to the groups to see if there's any commonality that we can kind of work with. That's kind of what I do for my job is setting up community-based composting and food collection and diversion. So just keep me in mind if you feel there's an opportunity, I can come down and help out.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I will
I want to
definitely do that.
mention one other thing for the recycling too. The compactor, you mentioned that being less expensive than putting up a large container for single stream that doesn't compact, but the other option would be if you could get just gaylords to store at your transfer station and collect source separated materials like just number one cardboard, number two, some of the things that you might be able to, or number two plastic, cardboard, paper, the things that you might be able to broker directly. That could be another cheaper way to be able to offer some recycling and probably significantly less cost, but just something to think about.
Yeah, that's a good point. Eco Maine does at the end of the year figure out how, I guess, how much they made, and they do kick that back to the municipalities that they serve. Um, I think it amounted to costing 30 some dollars a ton at the end of the year, as opposed to Perk, which was 86 or something like that a ton.
That's very good. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
is.
that's why we thought, going with Eco Maine, and they would take care of all the contacting outside agencies, to recycle what they had.
Mhm.
The only problem was they're in Portland, and we have to move the merchandise to Portland. And like I said, an open container, it just isn't worthwhile. And to have somebody to put on extra help to try and get someone to go out and figure out where we're going to send different items like the cardboard and all, starts to get pretty expensive because you're paying another employee. Um, but that's a thought.
The other thing too is this past round, we actually had the town of Montville who had lost their recycling transport system, and they wanted to continue with the recycling program. They actually applied for a truck, and we helped supply the funds to help them purchase a truck so they could continue with their recycling efforts.
Yeah, I
So,
saw I saw that. Yeah, yeah. I looked at
and
some of your past. You're right. Look at some of your past uh, people that have addressed this or filed for an RFP. In fact, we were talking to Scrap Dog, which you gave, not you, but I mean, which the state gave some money for
yes,
composting uh, about two
several
years ago.
times. Yeah,
Yeah,
Dwight.
except the problem with them is they didn't want to come this far north. Um, so we're looking at another outfit, Chickadee Compost.
Yep, we gave
Uh,
them a grant as well.
oh, did you? I
Se-
didn't see that one, but
yep,
yeah,
yep.
we're talking to her, and she's willing to put some containers at her transfer station, and then I think when we get like 8 containers full, she'll pick them up. But yeah, to get that food scrap, that's unbelievable the amount of weight that is the food scrapped in. So if we can
Uh,
get that out as a start, and then go with Eco Maine, we'll we'll be doing a lot. And then I think down the road maybe we can get some swap shops open, at the transfer station. Um, but I'd like to get rid of the food scraps first, and we're in talk with, like I say, with her, and then the other compostable things. And I'm sure, like everybody else, we're getting a lot of Amazon boxes, more so, since the pandemic, more so than a lot of other things, really. And that's really clogging up the compactor as far as sending stuff to Perk and all.
Oh, absolutely. And just so you know, First Earth in Hamden, his wife works on Blue Hill for Maine, Northern Maine Light,
Hmm.
and he is partnering with Chickadee.
Oh,
So I suspect that maybe when he comes down through the back way to go to Chickadee, he's probably going right by you to pick up stuff. So he's probably your pickup service.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea. We were thinking too, be advantageous for us to run a truck over uh, to Blue Hill and Chickadee, actually.
That would be
So
great. She would love
yeah,
that.
yeah. So we're trying to get that straightened out, and then, like I say, the next step would be a compactor for Eco Maine, and that's probably what we're going to put an RFP in for this year is for that compactor. Uh, we'd have to run new wiring for a second compactor up at the transfer station, and move the fence a little bit to make room for that second compactor unit. Uh, but that's what the recycle committee is planning to do right now.
Interesting. It sounds like you got a lot of projects, and just the movement of food is so important because collecting food is a piece of cake. Composting food is a piece of cake. Getting it from point A to point B is the biggest killer of the whole process.
Yeah.
And so if you can come up with an economic way to transport that, that's interesting too, because those kind of things help us help other parts of the state when the infrastructure is so far away to come up with options in order to get it there cheaply and with the least amount of emissions possible.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the people from Hamden coming down, that's a good idea. Yeah, we'll have to talk to Chickadee about that too.
Yeah. Well, I
Excellent.
suspect that's part of her idea is that he just does it on the way through.
Yeah, excellent idea. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right. So what was the final tally of people that might submit an application? Was it quite prolific?
I think it's at least four. One, two, three, four.
Okay. Well, we're looking forward to this round because our team has really figured it out. And the last round, we had everything done within like 3 months. Whereas the first time we took this over, it took us almost 7 months to get a decision, and people were very concerned. So we've definitely streamlined the process.
Oh.
All right. Any other
Last call.
thoughts? Yeah, we probably ought to because we've been trying to pull things out of people. I appreciate everybody coming, and I guess I'd ask you if you think this was valuable and we should do it more. Just notify us in the chat because the feedback would be really helpful. If this was a waste of your time, let me know that too, because I'm just trying to find ways to reach out to people.
Looks like we have some positive feedback. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, we do this because we love it. I mean, this is a
Mhm.
good part of our job. There are lots of parts of our job that aren't necessarily awesome, but this is an awesome one. So.
Definitely agree. This is such a great project.
Oh.
All right, Jess, do you want to tell them sort of when they might expect the recording and transcription will be done and those kind of things?
Yeah, turnaround is no more than 2 weeks. And I'm assuming that we're gonna have a link. Are you gonna make kind of like a folder of information in which you'll include this recording and the transcription? Or are you planning to have a link available on the program's website?
I'm going to have it on the program's website and the
Okay.
RFP press release when David sends it out. I'm going to embed that in there.
Cool.
And I'm going to check with purchases to see if I can embed it in the RFP, but they're very specific about stuff. And that's the other thing. The reason why we have all these wonky rules that I can't talk to you at any time after you submit things and the written comment period is done, it's because purchases has dealt with so many RFP and other bid processes all these years, and there's just so many places where things go awry, and there's a party that gets impacted that results in lots of conflict. So they have very, very strict provisions on what they do so that we do not have any appeals at the end of the process, that everybody feels well served. So that's why we wanted to do this, so that we could give people a chance to kind of just get all their anxious questions out of the way and go from there.
Cool. Okay,
right,
I dropped
Oh,
a
go-
link to the website,
Oh,
the
cool.
program's webpage. I think I got the right one. Well, I'm scrolling down to the bottom here where I'm not sure if I'm seeing what you referred to earlier, which was checking in on all the previous cycles.
Oh, that's on the purchases. So that's on the actual RFP, but it's the
Okay.
purchases website where they keep all those stored.
Okay, so I
And it
didn't
is
share
linked
that
to
link.
from that.
It
Yeah,
is linked
that
from that
link is
page.
is within the. Mhm.
Okay.
On the waste diversion page.
Okay, cool. So they'll find it all there.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, I'll stop the recording now.
Okay. I guess at this
Right.
stage we shall bid you all adieu. Thanks for coming, and we will probably be doing this again in the spring. And that way we're going to do 2 rounds a year, spring, fall, and hopefully we'll see you in this round. And if not, we'll see you in the spring. So, all right, awesome. Thank you all for coming.